After generating more hype than any unreleased game in history, Quake is finally here. And it makes good on its promise, big time. With no compromises, no excuses, and no bull, Quake delivers an edge-of-the-seat adrenaline rush that begins the moment you set foot in its darkened halls. If it sounds like I'm gushing about this game, I am. Quake is a masterpiece on every level, with its ominous atmosphere, silky smooth animation, incredibly well-balanced gameplay and level design, and unparalleled soundtrack. Once again, the team at ID Software has created a no-apologies, ultra-violent gorefest sure to be the new battleground of choice for single and multiplayer combatants worldwide. The most important distinction between Quake and the drove of first-person action games currently available is that it's set in a true 3D world. Compared to other titles, Quake's enemies and objects have an entirely new level of depth to them. You can view any game element from any angle with consistently smooth and realistic results. The architecture of the levels is much more sophisticated than it is in competing titles, so are the real-time animations, which include such effects as explosion particles flying in every direction and enormous, spike-like objects shooting out from hidden compartments. The true 3D environment also allows totally new attack strategies, like bouncing a grenade off a wall in order to blast an opponent skulking around the corner. In Quake, you can attack or be attacked from almost any angle or altitude. But gone are the days of merely pointing your gun in the general direction of your enemies and blazing away. If you want to hit something, you're going to have to aim your weapon carefully. That's not as easy as it sounds, because the Quake interface breaks rank with the standard control set of previous ID Software titles. The new system takes some getting used to, but once learned, provides an unmatched level of control. A 3-button mouse is almost a must, since it allows you to simultaneously move, turn, and fire in any direction. Although it's possible to play with the keyboard or a gamepad, most players will find that in underwater and deathmatch situations, only the mouse will ensure mastery over both the environment and unruly opponents. And speaking of unruly opponents, there's only one way to deal with them: violently. Quake sports a wicked complement of weapons: grenade and rocket launchers, shotguns, lightning guns, and a nail gun that's so fun to fire I ran out of ammo just shooting it at the walls. Note to beginning players: don't shoot at the walls and run out of ammo until all of the monsters are dead. A host of power-ups are also hidden throughout the game, and collecting them can instantly shift the balance of power both in single and multiplayer battles. These items include the Circle of Protection, which gives you 666 hit points, enough to go toe-to-toe with just about anyone, the Ring of Shadows, which makes you invisible, except for the 2 glowing eyeballs your enemies can spot floating in space, and Quake Power, a true humdinger that dramatically increases the damage levels of all your weaponry. You can open up a family-size can of whoopass on anyone once you've collected this icon. All this is backed by graphics that are awesome in their own right. The creatures that fill the game's 4 worlds and 28 levels are, as you might expect, sick, twisted, and perverse. The visceral effect of the bloody grimaces and entropic bioforms is intensified by animation that's unusually smooth and utterly convincing. The first time I was attacked by a hook-wielding enemy, I actually dropped the mouse and backed away from the computer. Second note for beginning players: don't drop the mouse and back away from the computer until all of the monsters are dead. The graphics are perfectly complemented by sound effects and ambient tunes from the darker regions of Trent Reznor's musical mind. Simply put, this is the best soundtrack ever created for a computer game. Reznor's eerie sounds and unsettling background music push Quake's already dark and creepy atmosphere into the realm of pure evil. Yes, kill, and keep on killing, is clearly the message here, and with Quake's 28 artfully balanced multiplayer maps, it's a hard message to resist. I spent 2 days playing against Quake's design team in deathmatch mode. Third note for beginning players: don't ever play Quake's designers in deathmatch mode, and the experience was truly unforgettable. Quake's designers have created deathmatch environments that reward skill rather than luck, and are filled with nooks and crannies and other lovely places to hide while you wait for the unwitting opponent to stroll by. And if merely killing your opponents isn't enough, and for the guys at ID, it apparently isn't, Quake includes a set of extremely debasing death messages. Player 1 sucks down Player 2's rocket, for example, along with an easy-to-use chat system that enables you to add a few custom pokes of your own. Much more could be said of Quake, but I'll leave the rest for you to discover. The hype surrounding this game has been almost unbearable, but in the end, Quake deserves every bit of advance, and until now, unverifiable, praise it has received. If you're into action games, and even if you're not, you should be playing Quake right now. It's as... My dad is an absolutely terrible person. Seriously. He's a menace. Inexcusable as a human being. I was only 8, for goodness sake. 8. Young and impressionable, eager to get a first taste of the forbidden world of adulthood. He took advantage. I'm happy to talk about this now. He took advantage across several weeks during that famously hot British summer of 1996. He corrupted me, soiled my mind forever. When she found out, my mother wasn't happy at all. 8-year-olds shouldn't be doing such unspeakable things. Especially when it means staying up after bedtime. But stay up I did, long into the night, playing what my dad called our special game. How could he, a grown man in his late 30s at the time, expose a child to such inappropriateness as ID Software's extraordinary 3D shooter, Quake? There was a deal. As long as I went to school every morning without complaining or throwing a temper tantrum, I was allowed a couple of hours on Quake every evening. We played through the game together over those weeks, taking on a level each at a time. If I recall correctly, we played it on easy mode, which the manual suggested was for little kids and grandmas. Even ID Software were advocating that children play their game. Based on their recommendation, I had an excuse for playing on easy. I suspect his excuse was that he was rubbish. So yeah, plenty of great memories of father-son bonding. I'm sure my mum would have preferred us to go for a kickabout at the park, but whatever. We had a fantastic time. The game was stunning, rendered for the first time in full 3D, even the enemies. It was tightly designed, fierce and brutal. But I admit that, when I played through again recently, the game surprised me. Because I was 8 years old at the time, and my adult self didn't really believe it was quite so good. For starters, a lot changes in the best part of 15 years. Game design has certainly evolved a spectacular amount since then, and what was once acceptable is no longer so. And secondly, well, I was 8. At 8, someone might as well have shoved Daikatana in front of me, and I'd have thought it was the most amazing thing ever crafted by humanity. But no, Quake still absolutely stands up today. Its visuals might be pixelated, the environments often rather monochrome, as became the running gag. Yet the design of the world is tremendous, the levels balanced, structured and elegantly paced. The variety on display, despite the vast swathes of brown, dwarfs that of most modern games as well. Quake wrote into its story a great way of swinging between science fiction and grim medieval fantasy, set the game in the future, and have it be about a dude traveling through flashy, high-tech slipgate complexes into an alternate dimension where everything's grand but grimy, and apparently 6 centuries old. It's also bloody scary. I have vague recollections of unrepeatable language pouring from my dad's mouth, much to my mother's wide-eyed horror, but I don't remember being quite so startled myself. Yet here I am, a grown man, on the edge of my seat as I wait for the next big jump. There's a moment in Episode 1, Mission 5, in which you enter an empty room containing the very important gold key. You step forward to pick it up, the walls drop all around you, and there's a shambler, a great, white, hulking bundle of goodness knows what, standing there, furious, firing bolts of lightning at you, and oh my goodness. I'm happy to spoil this sequence, because there are 20 more where that came from. The weapons pack a punch, though, which is a good thing. While Quake's 3D engine meant it could never pack quite as many baddies on screen as its spiritual predecessor, Doom, those who are present are a tough collective. The Vores, for example, enormous arachnoid beasts firing heat-seeking spike balls from their bellies, take an absolute age to bring down, not to mention a rucksack full of rockets. And the sheer breathtaking speed of the fiends, all claws and jaws and nightmare, means that hitting them before they scratch your eyes out is a genuinely finger-destroying task. But the weapons. A whole sea of them, each one weighty and tactile. ID's trademark shotgun makes for your starting weapon, alongside an axe which you'll never use unless you've got the quad damage power-up, in which case it's hilarious. Next comes one with 2 barrels, before a nail gun, a super nail gun, grenade and rocket launchers, and even a gun which shoots pure electricity join your roster. The nail gun ammo has the 9-inch nails logo plastered all over it, in one of the loveliest pieces of in-game advertising I've seen. Trent Reznor created the blistering soundtrack, which still raises hairs today. Quake also features an endgame boss that's memorable for the most bizarre reason: it's an extraordinary anticlimax. She's called Shub-Niggurath, and for the majority of the game, you're not really aware of her existence, or of the existence of a final boss at all. The game is split into 4 episodes, each accessible from what is essentially an explorable 3D menu screen. It's not until you've completed all 4 that the floor begins to descend, a set of stairs appears, and you can wander down into her lair. It's filled with wave upon wave of bad guys, probably the most challenging sequence of battles in the game. Yet old Shubby just sits there, in the middle of a pool of lava, a big tentacled beast posing no threat whatsoever. She's behind this whole infestation of nastiness, apparently, but she appears completely placid, all on her own, passive-aggressively dumping a whole load of minions in your path. She might as well be looking the other way and whistling. You empty a bucket load of bullets into her torso, but nothing happens. And then you realize that the floating spike ball hovering around the room is the location in which that big teleporter ahead dumps you when you jump into it. And the spike ball occasionally passes through the monster in the pit of lava. And oh! In a seconds-long cutscene, it's all over. You hack your way out of her belly, destroying her in an inexplicable shower of guts, and that's Quake done with. You've won. You're the hero. It's bizarre. But you know what? Despite the anticlimax, I did feel like a hero, both as an 8-year-old, and just recently. I defeated a full, lengthy first-person shooter, bringing down the evil empire of Shub-Niggurath, and I damn well deserved to feel a bit of pride. So that 8-year-old went on to play more games, more challenging ones, games of different colors and flavors. Quake wasn't just a fantastic game, it was the single experience that made me realize how awesome the medium could be. I guess I know who I have to thank for that. My dad is an absolutely awesome person.